I stood in the darkness, hidden behind the thick, gnarled trunk of an old oak tree, the very same tree I had planted a sapling next to when we first bought this land. My hand was clamped tight over my 6-year-old son's mouth. I could feel his little teeth chattering against my palm, his small body vibrating like a frightened bird in my arms. Tears were streaming down my face, hot and fast, mixing with the sweat and the dirt, but I didn't dare make a sound. I didn't dare breathe too loud. 50 yards away, the home I had spent 10 years building, the home where we picked out the beige paint for the nursery, where we hung our Christmas stockings with care every December, and where I marked my boy's height on the kitchen door frame with a little pencil line, was being swallowed by flames. It wasn't just a fire, honey. It was a beast. Orange and red tongues of flame licked up the sides of the porch, eating the rocking chairs where I used to sit and drink my morning tea. The windows blew out with a sound like a shotgun blast, sending showers of glass into the rose bushes I had pruned just yesterday. The heat was intense. Even from back here in the woods, I could feel it on my cheeks, drying the tears as fast as they fell. But that heat was nothing compared to the coldness spreading through my chest. Because the part that broke me wasn't the house. Wood can be rebuilt. Photos can be reprinted. No. What broke me, what shattered my soul into a million jagged pieces right there in the mud, was knowing that my husband, the man who swore before God and our families to protect me, the man who held my hand while I labored with our son, wasn't on a plane to Chicago like he said he was. He wasn't in a meeting. He wasn't closing a deal. He was somewhere close. I could feel it in my bones. He was probably checking his watch, waiting for the news, waiting for the phone call that would tell him his wife and child were nothing but ash and bone. My little boy, Kenzo, shifted in my grip, and I pulled him tighter, burying his face in my neck so he wouldn't have to watch his childhood burn down. If I hadn't listened to his tiny, trembling whisper just 40 minutes ago, if I had been stubborn or tired or just a typical busy mother, we would be in those flames right now. We would be screaming, and no one would be there to hear us. Oh, bless his heart. My son saved my life, but in doing so, he showed me a monster I had been sleeping next to for a decade. Hello, dear listeners. Thank you for joining me today on the porch. Pull up a chair. It's a heavy story I have to tell you tonight, one that might make you hold your loved ones a little tighter. Before I begin unraveling this spool of thread, I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel and left a comment writing which state or country you are listening from. It always warms my heart to see how far our stories travel, from the valleys of Virginia to the bustling streets of faraway lands. Enjoy listening. Let me take you back. Let me take you back to before the fire, before the fear, to a time when I thought I was the luckiest woman in Georgia. It all started on a Tuesday morning. You know the kind of morning I'm talking about. Sticky and humid, typical for Atlanta in late summer. The air was thick, smelling like wet asphalt and honeysuckle. Inside our house, everything felt perfect. That's the only word for it. It was a lie, of course, but it felt perfect. I was in the kitchen, making coffee. The smell of that dark roast brewing was usually my favorite part of the day. Quasi, my husband, came down the stairs adjusting his tie. He looked handsome. Lord, that man could wear a suit. He had this way of walking, confident and smooth, like he owned the ground beneath his feet. We had been married for 8 years. 8 years of laughter, or so I thought. 8 years of building a life. He walked over to me, wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed my neck. His lips were warm. His cologne, sandalwood, and a hint of citrus filled my nose. It was the scent of safety, the scent of home. "Ayira, baby," he said, his voice low and smooth, vibrating against my skin. "I hate to leave you and the boy, but this trip, I'm telling you, this is the one." I turned around in his arms and fixed his collar. I looked into his eyes, those deep brown eyes that I had fallen in love with at a church picnic 10 years ago. They looked clear. They looked loving. There wasn't a shadow of guilt in them. How does a man do that? How does a man look at the woman he plans to kill and smile like that? "I know, honey," I said, smoothing the lapel of his jacket. "We're proud of you. Chicago is a big step. You go get that contract." "This deal's going to change everything for us," he continued, taking a sip of the coffee I handed him. "No more debt, no more worrying about the mortgage. We're going to be set for life." "Set for life," I repeated, smiling. I didn't know he meant his life, not ours. Upstairs, I heard the pitter-patter of feet. Kenzo came running down, dragging his favorite stuffed dinosaur. He was a happy child usually, full of light and noise, but that morning was different. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and I believe children and animals sense the storm before the clouds ever gather. Kenzo didn't run to his father like he usually did. He stood at the bottom of the stairs, clutching that dinosaur by the neck, just staring. "Come give Daddy a hug, big man," Quasi said, opening his arms wide. "I'm going to be gone until Friday." Kenzo walked forward slowly, his feet dragging on the hardwood floor. He let his father hug him, but he didn't hug back. He stood stiff as a board. "What's wrong, sleepyhead?" I asked, ruffling Kenzo's hair. "Cat got your tongue?"
"Nothing," Kenzo mumbled, looking at the floor. "He's just sad I'm leaving," Quasi said with a chuckle, patting Kenzo on the back a little too hard. "Toughen up, son. You're the man of the house while I'm gone. Take care of your mother." Take care of your mother. Those words echo in my head now. It was a command, but not the kind I thought it was. We piled into the car for the drive to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It's a long drive from our subdivision, maybe 45 minutes with traffic. Usually we listen to the radio, sing along to old songs, chat about dinner plans, but the silence in that car was heavy. It felt physical. It felt like the air pressure dropped before a tornado touches down. I drove. Quasi sat in the passenger seat, tapping away on his phone. Tap, tap, tap. He was always on that phone lately. Work, he'd say. Clients, he'd say. I never questioned it. Why would I? He was a good provider. He bought me flowers on no special occasion. He came to church with me on Sundays. I glanced over at him. "Who are you texting so furiously, honey? Don't tell me business has started before you even hit the tarmac." He jumped just a fraction. He locked the screen quickly and slid the phone into his inner suit pocket. "Just confirming the hotel reservation. You know how they mess these things up." "All right," I said, keeping my eyes on the road. But a tiny, microscopic seed of doubt planted itself in my stomach. Just a little prickle.
I ignored it. We women are taught to ignore those things, aren't we? We're taught not to be nags, not to be suspicious. We're taught to trust. In the back seat, Kenzo was staring out the window. He looked so small in that big booster seat. He was watching the trees whiz by, his forehead pressed against the cool glass. When we pulled up to the departures curb, the chaos of the airport swirled around us. Whistles blowing, taxis honking, people rushing with luggage. It was loud and overwhelming. Quasi got out and grabbed his suitcase from the trunk. It was his small carry-on. He didn't check a bag. He leaned in the driver's window. "I'll call you when I land, okay? Might be late. Don't wait up." "I love you," I said. He paused. For a second, just a split second, I saw something flicker across his face. Was it regret? Was it hesitation? Or was it just the sun reflecting off the windshield? "Love you too," he said. But it sounded automatic. It sounded like a recording. He turned to the back window, which was rolled down halfway. "Bye, Kenzo. Be good." Kenzo didn't say it back. He just stared at his father with big, dark, unblinking eyes. He looked like an old soul in a child's body right then. He looked like he was seeing something I couldn't see. Quasi frowned, clearly annoyed by the lack of affection, but he didn't have time to argue. He checked his watch, always checking that watch, and slammed the car door. I watched him walk through the sliding glass doors of the terminal. He didn't look back, not once. Usually, he would turn and wave. Today, he just walked straight into the crowd and vanished. I put the car in drive and merged back into the heavy airport traffic. The seed of doubt in my stomach was growing a little roots now. Why didn't he wave? Why was Kenzo so quiet? Why did the air in the car feel so cold? "You okay back there, baby?" I asked, looking in the rearview mirror. "You barely said goodbye to Daddy." Kenzo didn't answer right away. He was picking at his fingernails, tearing at the skin until it looked red and raw. We drove for about 10 minutes in silence. I was just about to turn on the radio, maybe find some gospel music to lift the mood, when a small voice broke the quiet. It was so soft, I almost thought I imagined it over the hum of the tires on the highway. "Mommy?" "Yes, sweetie." "Mommy, do we have to go home?" I frowned, changing lanes. "Of course, sweetie. Where else would we go? We have to get supper started. I was thinking we could make spaghetti. You like spaghetti?" He didn't care about spaghetti. He looked up and I saw his face in the mirror. He was pale, sickly pale. "No," he whispered. "I don't want to go home." "Why not, Kenzo? Are you feeling sick?" "Because," he said, and his voice started to tremble. "Because Daddy was on the phone in the garage last night when you were sleeping. He thought everyone was sleeping." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The leather creaked. "Kenzo, honey, Daddy works late sometimes. You know that." "No," Kenzo said, louder this time, more urgent. "He wasn't working, Mommy. He was talking to a man, a bad man." I felt a cold flush spread over my skin. "What did he say, Kenzo? Tell Mommy exactly what he said." Kenzo took a deep breath, his little chest hitching. He said, "Make sure it's done tonight. They'll be home alone. Just burn it all. I want it gone." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The cars around me blurred. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Kenzo, are you sure?" I whispered. "Are you making up stories?" He said, "Make it look like an accident," Kenzo recited. The way he said it, children don't speak like that. They don't know phrases like "make it look like an accident" unless they've heard them. And then he laughed, Mommy. Daddy laughed. "Mommy, Daddy is the bad man." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to tell him he had a wild imagination, that he had been watching too many cartoons. I wanted to turn the car around, drive home, lock the door, and pretend everything was fine. But a mother's instinct is a powerful thing. It's a gift from the Almighty, a primal alarm bell that rings when her cubs are in danger. And deep down in my gut, beneath the love and the denial, a siren was screaming at me, "Don't go home." I passed the exit for our subdivision. I watched the green sign fade into the distance. I didn't go home. Instead, I pulled into the parking lot of a grocery store 3 miles away. I put the car in park and just sat there. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't unclench them from the wheel. I pulled out my phone. I dialed Quasi. Ring, ring, ring. "Hi, this is Quasi. Leave a message." I hung up. I called his office. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears when the secretary answered. "Oh, Mrs. Vance," she chirped. "Quasi isn't on a trip. He took the week off for personal family matters. He said you guys were going up to the lake house. Is everything all right?" The phone slipped from my sweaty palm and landed on the floor mat. The silence that followed was deafening. He wasn't in Chicago. He was here, and he had lied. I looked in the rearview mirror at my son. He wasn't crying. He was just watching me, waiting for me to be the mother he needed, waiting for me to believe him. "We aren't going home, baby," I said, my voice stealing over. "We aren't going home." But I had to know. I couldn't just run on a whisper. I needed proof. If I was going to accuse my husband, the father of my child, of something so evil, I needed to see it with my own eyes. So as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and red, I drove my car to a side street 2 blocks from our house. We got out. I held Kenzo's hand so tight, I thought I might crush it. We crept through the neighbors' backyards, dodging motion sensor lights and barking dogs, until we were crouched in the bushes, looking at our own front door. And that brings us back to the fire, to the heat, to the realization that the life I loved was nothing but kindling for a greedy man's debt. We waited there in the dirt. The mosquitoes were biting my ankles, and my legs were cramping from crouching so long. Kenzo was a statue beside me. Around 8 p.m., the street was quiet. Most people were inside having dinner. I could see the blue glow of televisions in the neighbors' windows. It looked so peaceful, so normal. Then, a dark van rolled down the street. It didn't have its headlights on. It moved slow, like a shark in dark water. It stopped right in front of our driveway. My heart stopped. 2 men got out. They were dressed in dark clothes, hoodies pulled up. They didn't look around. They walked straight to the front door with a purpose that chilled my blood. And then I saw it, the moment that erased every doubt I had left. One of them pulled a key out of his pocket, a shiny brass key. I stared at it, my vision blurring. We had high security locks. We had an alarm system. Only 2 people in this entire world had a key to that front door, me and Quasi. He had given them the key. He didn't want them to break in. He didn't want to damage the doorframe. He wanted it smooth. He wanted it easy. They unlocked the door and walked right into my sanctuary. I held my breath. I think I held it for 5 whole minutes. My lungs were burning, screaming for air, but I couldn't exhale. I was afraid that if I let a breath out, the universe would shatter. Those men were inside my house, inside the sanctuary where my son learned to walk, inside the kitchen where I had left the breakfast dishes soaking in the sink just that morning. It felt violated. It felt like someone was reaching inside my chest and squeezing my heart with dirty hands. Kenzo was trembling so hard against me that his teeth were clicking together. I rubbed his back, slow and firm, trying to tell him without words, "I've got you. Mama's got you." Time stretches when you're terrified, honey. It pulls like taffy. Those 5 minutes felt like 5 years. Then the front door opened again. The 2 men walked out. They weren't running. They weren't panicked. They walked with the casual arrogance of men who knew they wouldn't be caught. One of them tossed something back toward the porch, a small, dark object, maybe a lighter, maybe a rag soaked in something foul. They got into the van. The engine rumbled to life, a low growl in the quiet suburban street, and they drove away. No headlights, just a shadow slipping back into the darkness. For a second, there was silence, just the chirping of crickets and the distant hum of traffic on the interstate. Then came the sound, whoosh. It wasn't a bang. It was the sound of air being sucked into a vacuum, a soft, hungry sound. A glow appeared in the living room window. At first, it was gentle, like the flicker of a fireplace on a cozy winter night. But then it grew. It turned angry. The orange light pulsed, brighter and brighter, until the curtains, my beautiful cream-colored linen curtains, caught fire. They curled up and blackened in seconds. Smoke began to seep out from under the doorframe, curling into the night air like gray snakes. "Mommy," Kenzo whispered, his voice choked with tears. "My toys." "I know, baby," I whispered back, tears sliding down my own face. "I know." We watched. We watched as the fire spread to the second floor. We watched as the window to Kenzo's bedroom turned bright red. If he had been in his bed, if I had tucked him in and read him a story like a good mother. Oh Lord, the thought made my knees give out. I sank into the dirt, clutching my son, burying my face in his hair. The smell of his shampoo, strawberry and sunshine, was the only thing keeping me sane, while the smell of burning wood and melting plastic began to fill the neighborhood. Lights flickered on in the houses around us. Dogs started barking. People came out onto their porches in their bathrobes, pointing, screaming, calling 911. "Fire! Oh my God, the Vance house is on fire. Is anyone inside? Is Ira home?" I heard my neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, screaming my name. Ira, Quasi. Part of me wanted to run out there, to scream, I'm here, we're safe. But a colder, harder part of me, the part that was born that night, kept me hidden in the shadows. If Quasi knew we were alive, he wouldn't stop. A man who burns down a house with his family inside doesn't give up because he failed once. He tries again. And next time, he might use a gun or a car accident. Come on, I whispered to Kenzo. We have to go. We have to be ghosts now. We crawled backward, away from the heat, away from the gathering crowd. We made it back to the car, which I had parked 3 blocks away under the heavy branches of a willow tree. I buckled Kenzo in. My hands were shaking so bad, it took me 3 tries to get the clip to snap. Where are we going? He asked. He looked exhausted. His eyes were heavy, rimmed with red. Somewhere safe, I said. Somewhere Daddy can't find us. We didn't go to my sister's house. Too obvious. We didn't go to a nice hotel downtown. Quasi would see the credit card charges. I drove us to the edge of town, to a place where the streetlights flickered and the roads were cracked. We pulled into the Starlight Motor Inn. It was one of those places with a neon sign that buzzed like an angry hornet, where the N in inn was burnt out. I paid cash for a room. The clerk behind the glass was a tired-looking man with grease stains on his shirt. He didn't ask why a woman in a nice dress and a little boy were checking in at 10 p.m. with no luggage. He just took the money and slid a plastic key across the counter. Room 104. Around back, he grunted. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and lemon cleaner, a sour mix that made my stomach turn. The carpet was sticky. The bedspread had a pattern of faded flowers that looked like they had died a long time ago. But it had a lock, and it had a deadbolt. I locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. Then I wedged a chair under the handle, just like they do in the movies. Kenzo was already asleep on top of the covers. He didn't even take his shoes off. I sat on the edge of the other bed and watched him. I watched his chest rise and fall. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flames. I saw Quasi's smile at the airport. I love you. That's what he said. What is love, honey? Is it a word? Is it a promise? Because that night, I realized that for some people, love is just a mask they wear to hide the monster underneath. I sat there in the dark, listening to the sirens wailing in the distance, probably headed to my house, and I felt the grief slowly draining out of me. It was dripping away, drop by drop, replaced by something else. Rage. Pure, cold, focused rage. He took my home. He tried to take my son. He tried to take my life. I looked at my phone. It was turned off. I hadn't turned it on since the grocery store. I knew it would be blowing up with calls from neighbors, from the police, maybe even from Quasi pretending to be the worried husband. I left it off. Let him sweat. Let him think he won. Let him think his plan worked perfectly, because a man who thinks he has won is a man who makes mistakes. When the sun came up, it didn't feel like a new day. The light coming through the thin, dirty curtains was gray and weak. I went into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were puffy. My mascara was smeared down my cheeks. My hair was a mess. But the woman looking back at me wasn't the same woman who made coffee yesterday morning. That woman was dead. She died in the fire. The woman in the mirror was a survivor, and she was dangerous. I woke Kenzo up gently. Come on, baby. We have some business to handle. Are we going to the police? He asked, rubbing his eyes. Not yet, I said. The police need proof, and we're going to get it for them. But first, we need a shark. I drove us into the city, towards the glass skyscrapers that pierced the Atlanta skyline. I knew exactly where I was going. My father, God rest his soul, used to say, Ira, if you're ever in trouble that prayers can't fix, you go see Zunera. Zunera Alipur. She was a legend in this town, a criminal defense attorney who had switched sides to family law and asset recovery. They called her the Iron Magnolia. She was sweet as pie until you crossed her, and then she would tear you apart without messing up her manicure. We walked into her building. The lobby smelled of expensive leather and fresh lilies. It was a stark contrast to the motel room we had just left. The receptionist looked at my wrinkled dress and my disheveled son with a raised eyebrow. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone suggesting we were in the wrong place. "Tell Zunaira that Irira Vance is here. Tell her the house burned down." The receptionist blinked, confused, but she picked up the phone. A moment later, her eyes went wide. "Yes, ma'am, right away." She looked at me with new respect. "Miss Alipur says to come straight back." Zunaira was standing by the window of her corner office when we walked in. She was a tall woman, elegant, wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. She turned around, and when she saw me, her professional mask dropped. "Irira," she breathed. She crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a hug that smelled of Chanel No. 5. "I saw the news this morning. The fire. They said the family was unaccounted for. I thought, we weren't there," I said, my voice cracking for the first time that morning. "We weren't there because Kenzo warned me." Zunaira pulled back and looked at Kenzo. She crouched down, eye level with him. "You warned her?" Kenzo nodded. "Daddy told the bad men to burn it." Zunaira stood up slowly, her face hardened. The warmth vanished from her eyes, replaced by a glint of sharp, cold intelligence. She walked behind her massive mahogany desk and sat down. She didn't offer us water. She didn't offer us tissues. She opened a notepad. "Sit down," she commanded. "Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out, even the small things, especially the small things." I told her everything. The phone call Kenzo overheard, the trip to the airport, the text messages Quasi was hiding, the men with the key, the fire. Zunaira listened without interrupting. Her pen scratched against the paper, a rhythmic, aggressive sound. When I finished, silence hung in the room. "He thinks you're dead," Zunaira said finally. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Good." She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "That gives us the advantage. A dead wife can't hire a lawyer. A dead wife can't freeze bank accounts. A dead wife can't testify." She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "Get me the private investigator." "Yes, the one who handled the greasy senator case. I need him on a deep dive. Name's Quasi Vance. I want financials, I want phone records, and I want to know who he owes money to, because men don't burn down their own castles unless the dragon is at the gate." She hung up and looked at me. "We're going to stay quiet, Irira. For 48 hours, you don't exist. We let him play the grieving widower. We let him think he's safe." "And then?" I asked. "And then," Zunaira smiled, and it was a terrifying thing to behold. "We find out exactly how much your life was worth to him." It didn't take 48 hours. Zunaira's investigator was a magician. By that afternoon, we had a file on her desk. Zunaira flipped it open. "Here it is," she said, sliding a paper across the desk to me. "It's not just one debt, Aida. It's an avalanche." I looked at the numbers. They were staggering. $400,000 in gambling debts to an illegal bookie ring operating out of Macon. Another $150,000 in credit card debt hidden in accounts I didn't know existed. "And here is the kicker," Zunaira said, sliding another paper. "Life insurance." My hands trembled as I picked it up. "He took it out 3 months ago," Zunaira explained, her voice low and dangerous. "Double indemnity for accidental death. If you die in a fire, he gets double." I looked at the bottom line. Total benefit, $2.5 million. $2.5 million. I stared at the number. The zero swam before my eyes. That was the price tag. That was what I was worth. That was what Kenzo was worth. He was going to trade his wife and his 6-year-old son for $2.5 million, pay off his bookies, and live like a king on the rest. I felt sick, physically sick. I grabbed the trash can next to Zunaira's desk and dry heaved. There was nothing in my stomach but bile and coffee. Zunaira handed me a tissue. She didn't tell me to calm down. She didn't tell me it would be okay. "Cry now," she said sharply. "Get it out, because tomorrow we have work to do. Tomorrow we're going to set a trap, and we're going to use his own greed as the bait. I wiped my mouth. I looked at that paper again. The number burned itself into my memory. $2,500,000. I don't want to cry, I said, my voice raspy. I stood up, smoothing down my wrinkled dress. I looked at my son, who was coloring quietly in the corner, oblivious to the fact that his father had put a price on his head. I want to bury him, I said. Not in the ground. I want to bury him under the weight of his own sins. Zunaira nodded slowly. Then let's get a shovel. Zunaira didn't waste a second. She picked up her office phone, the heavy landline kind that looks like it belongs on a judge's desk, and punched in a number from memory. Detective Miller, it's Zunaira. I have a client in my office, and I have a case that is going to make your blood run cold. I need you here, now. And detective, come through the back entrance. We don't want anyone seeing you. While we waited, Zunaira ordered lunch, sandwiches from the deli. I looked at the food, at the fresh lettuce and the thick slices of turkey, and I felt my stomach turn over. How does the world keep spinning? How do people eat lunch and laugh and file paperwork when my entire life has been incinerated? But I forced myself to eat. 2 bites, 3 bites, because I needed strength. The weak woman who cried in the car was gone. I had to feed the warrior that was taking her place. Detective Miller arrived 20 minutes later. He was a big man, shaped like a linebacker who had seen too many rough seasons. He had gray stubble and eyes that looked like they had seen every sin humanity was capable of committing. He didn't smile. He just nodded at Zunaira and looked at me, really looked at me, with a gaze that felt like it was weighing my soul. "Tell me," he said, sitting heavily in the leather chair. I told the story again. This time, my voice didn't shake. I told him about the whisper in the car. I told him about... And then Zunaira slid the financial documents across the desk. Miller whistled low and long. $2.5 million? That's a lot of motive, Mrs. Vance. He thinks we're dead, I said. Or at least, he hopes we are. Miller leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Here is the situation, ma'am. The fire department put out the blaze about 3 hours ago. The house is a shell. But they know. They know there were no bodies inside. My heart jumped. So he knows? Not necessarily, Miller said, holding up a hand. We haven't released a statement to the press yet. As far as the public knows, it's still an active investigation scene. If he's smart, he's waiting. If he's guilty, he's panicking. Zunaira tapped her pen on the desk. We need him to believe he succeeded. If he thinks they escaped, he'll run. He'll be on the first flight to a non-extradition country with whatever cash he has left. We need him to stay. We need him to feel safe enough to come collect his prize. We need a blackout, Miller said, nodding. I can pull some strings. Keep the no casualties report off the scanners and out of the papers for 24 hours. We'll list the occupants as unaccounted for. That keeps the hope alive for him. And then, Zunaira added, a wicked glint in her eye, we give him a call. Not the police, the insurance company. The plan they hatched was terrifyingly simple. It relied on one thing, Quasi's greed. Greed, honey, makes a man blind. It makes him deaf to danger. It makes him walk straight into a bear trap because he's too busy looking at the honeypot. Detective Miller made a call to his captain to authorize the sting. Zunaira made a call to a contact she had at the insurance firm, a favor she was cashing in from years ago. They were going to set up a meeting, an expedited claim settlement. We tell him that due to the high profile of the fire and the police interest, the insurance company wants to settle fast to avoid bad press, Zunaira explained. We tell him they have a check ready, but he has to meet an adjuster in person to sign the final affidavit. Where? I asked. Not at his office, Miller said, and not at the police station. Somewhere public, somewhere he feels safe, somewhere he can't run from. Centennial Olympic Park, I whispered. He proposed to me there.
The room went silent. "It's perfect," Zunaira said softly. "The place where your life began is where his life ends." We spent that night at Zunaira's guest house. It was safer than the motel. Kenzo slept in a bed with high thread count sheets, hugging a teddy bear Zunaira had dug out of storage. I sat by the window, watching the Atlanta skyline, watching the lights flicker like distant stars. I wondered what Quasi was doing. Was he celebrating? Was he drinking champagne? Or was he lying in a hotel bed somewhere, haunted by the ghosts of the wife and child he thought he had murdered? I hoped he was haunted. I hoped every shadow looked like me.
The next morning, the call was made. We were in the police station now, in a back room filled with monitors and recording equipment. I had headphones on. I listened as an undercover officer, posing as the insurance adjuster, dialed Quasi's number. Ring, ring. Hello? Quasi's voice. Hearing it sent a jolt of electricity through me. He sounded normal, maybe a little tired, but steady. He didn't sound like a monster. That's the scary part, isn't it? Monsters don't sound like monsters. They sound like us. "Mr. Vance?" the officer said, his voice smooth and professional. "This is Mr. Henderson from State Farm Mutual. First, let me offer my deepest condolences. We heard about the tragedy." There was a pause, a silence on the line. I held my breath. "Thank you," Quasi said, his voice cracked perfectly. A performance. I still can't believe it. Have they found them? "The police are still searching the debris, sir. It's a difficult scene. But given the intensity of the fire, well, we are preparing for the worst." "I see," Quasi said. "God, my poor wife." I squeezed my eyes shut. My poor wife. The audacity, the absolute evil of that man. "Mr. Vance," the officer continued, "we understand you have significant financial obligations tied to the property. Our policy is to expedite claims in cases of total loss to assist the grieving family. We have authorized an immediate payout of the policy face value, pending your signature on the affidavit of loss." "Immediate?" Quasi asked. I could hear the greed leaking into his voice. The sadness evaporated, replaced by a sharp alertness. How soon?" "Today, sir. I can meet you at 2 p.m. I'm actually near downtown. Could you meet me at Centennial Olympic Park? Near the Fountain of Rings? It's a neutral ground, good for a quick signature." "Yes," Quasi said. He didn't even hesitate. "Yes, I can be there, 2 p.m. "Excellent. Bring your ID, Mr. Vance." "I will. Thank you. Thank you so much." The line clicked dead. Detective Miller took off his headset and looked at me. He took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. "He didn't ask about the investigation," I said, my voice cold. "He didn't ask if there were any leads on how the fire started. He just asked about the money." "That's our guy," Miller said grimly. "Now we get ready." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. They put a bulletproof vest on me. It was heavy and stiff, pressing against my ribs. "You don't have to do this, Ayera," Zunaira told me, adjusting the straps. "The police can arrest him the moment he shows up. You don't have to face him." "Yes, I do," I said. I looked her in the eye. "He needs to see me. He needs to know that he didn't win. If the police just arrest him, he'll think it was bad luck. He needs to know it was me. He needs to know that the woman he thought was weak was the one who brought him down." Zunaira nodded. She understood. "Okay, but you stay close to the perimeter. Miller and his team will be everywhere, disguised as tourists, maintenance workers, hot dog vendors. He won't be able to sneeze without us knowing." At 1:30 p.m., we drove to the park. The van I was in had tinted windows. I watched the world go by outside. People walking their dogs, couples holding hands, children chasing pigeons. Life was so normal out there. They had no idea that a few feet away, a tragedy was reaching its boiling point. We parked near the aquarium. Miller handed me an earpiece. "Small and discreet," he said. "Put it in your right ear. Cover it with your hair. I'll be in your ear the whole time. If I say drop, you drop. If I say run, you run. Do you understand? I understand. We're going to position you on a bench near the fountain. You'll be wearing the veil. They handed me a black mourning veil. It was thick lace. It covered my face completely. To anyone passing by, I would look like a grieving widow who just wanted to be alone near the water. He's going to approach the officer first, Miller explained. The officer, Mr. Henderson, will be sitting on the bench next to you. Once Quasi signs the document, that's the confession. That's the fraud committed on paper. That's when you stand up. I walked to the bench. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced them to move. I sat down. The stone bench was warm from the sun.
The sound of the fountain, splashing, joyous water, filled the air. It was a cruel soundtrack for what was about to happen. I checked my watch. 1:55 p.m. 5 minutes. I closed my eyes behind the veil. I thought of Kenzo, safe back at Zunaira's office with a paralegal and a police guard. I thought of the scorched earth where my garden used to be. And then I heard footsteps. Distinctive footsteps. The click-clack of expensive Italian loafers on pavement. Target in sight, Miller's voice crackled in my ear. Approaching from the north entrance, he's wearing a blue suit, sunglasses. He looks relaxed. Relaxed. I clenched my hands in my lap. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run at him and scratch his eyes out. But I sat still. I sat still as a stone. "Mr. Vance?" I heard the undercover officer say. "Mr. Henderson?" Quasi replied. He was 10 feet away from me. I could smell his cologne. The same sandalwood and citrus. It made me want to vomit. "Thank you for meeting me," Quasi said. "It's been a hell of a 2 days." "I can imagine," the officer said. "I have the check right here. 2.5 million. I just need you to review this affidavit stating that the fire was accidental and that you had no prior knowledge of any defects in the home." "Of course," Quasi said. "It was an old house. Wiring, probably. You know how it is." "There," Quasi said. "Signed. Is that it?"
"Just one more thing," the officer said. "We have a witness who claims otherwise." "A witness?" Quasi's voice spiked. "What witness? Everyone was asleep." "Not everyone," the officer said. He looked at me. That was my cue. "Now, Ira," Miller whispered in my ear. I stood up. I felt like I was 10 feet tall. I felt the spirit of every woman who had ever been wronged rising up in my spine. I turned to face him. He was looking at me, confused. He saw a woman in black, a stranger. "Who is this?" Quasi asked, annoyed. "I don't have time for this." I reached up. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. I lifted the veil. The sun hit my face, and for a moment, the world stopped. The fountain went silent. The birds stopped singing. Quasi's face, oh, honey, I wish I could paint it for you. It went from annoyance to confusion, and then to a horror so deep it looked like his skin was melting off his skull. His eyes bulged. His jaw dropped. He stumbled back, dropping his expensive sunglasses. "Ira," he whispered. It was a sound of pure terror. But the house, the fire. He looked at my face, searching for burns, searching for soot. He saw nothing but clean skin and eyes that burned hotter than any fire he could ever set. "We weren't home, Quasi," I said. My voice was steady, sharp as a butcher's knife. "Kenzo heard you. He heard you on the phone. He heard you planning our murders." Quasi's face contorted. The shock broke, and the panic set in.
He looked left. He looked right. He realized the insurance adjuster wasn't handing him a check. He realized the people eating hot dogs on the lawn had stopped chewing and were watching him. "You," he stammered, "you were supposed to die. I need that money." He screamed it. He actually screamed it. He didn't care who heard. He was a cornered rat. "You stupid witch," he snarled, his face turning purple. "You ruined everything." He lunged. He didn't run away. He ran at me. His hands were curled into claws, reaching for my throat.
He was going to finish the job right there in the middle of the park. "Take him," Miller shouted in my ear. "Police, get down, get on the ground." The park erupted. The tourists pulled weapons. The maintenance worker tackled Quasi from the side. But Quasi was big, and he was fueled by adrenaline. He threw the officer off. He was inches from me. I could see the sweat on his forehead. I could see the madness in his eyes. He reached for me, and I didn't flinch. I didn't step back. I looked him dead in the eye and said the words I had been saving. "You didn't burn me, Quasi. You just forged me."
He lunged at me. For a split second, time seemed to suspend itself. I saw the veins bulging in his neck. I saw the sweat flying off his brow. And I saw the pure, unadulterated hatred in his eyes. He didn't see his wife anymore. He saw a witness. He saw a problem he needed to erase. But he never touched me. Before his fingers could even graze the fabric of my dress, a wall of blue uniforms crashed into him. It sounded like a linebacker tackling a dummy on a practice field, a heavy, meaty thud. Air left his lungs in a sharp grunt. "Get off me! I didn't do anything! She's crazy!" Quasi screamed, his face pressed against the hot pavement of the park. "You have the right to remain silent," Officer Miller barked, his knee pressed firmly into Quasi's back. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." I stood there, watching. The tourists were gasping, holding their phones up to record the scene. The birds were scattering into the sky. And there, on the ground, the man I had shared a bed with for 8 years was being handcuffed. The metal cuffs clicked shut, click, click. And that sound, oh honey, that sound was sweeter than any choir I have ever heard on a Sunday morning. They hauled him up. His expensive suit was torn at the shoulder. Dirt was smeared on his cheek. He looked wild. He looked small. As they dragged him toward the patrol car, he twisted his neck to look at me one last time. "Ayira!" he shouted, desperation cracking his voice. "Ayira, baby, please!"
"Tell them it's a mistake. I can explain. We can fix this." I didn't say a word. I didn't step forward. I just watched him until they shoved him into the back seat and slammed the door. The tinted window hid his face, but I knew he was watching me. I stood there until the sirens faded into the Atlanta traffic. Only then did my legs give out. Zunaira was there instantly, catching me before I hit the ground. "I've got you," she whispered. "It's over. The hard part is over." But Zunaira, bless her optimistic heart, was only half right. The danger was over, yes, but the healing, the justice, that was a mountain we still had to climb. The trial took 6 months to start. 6 months of living in a temporary apartment, looking over my shoulder every time a car backfired. 6 months of Kenzo waking up screaming in the middle of the night, dreaming about fire. I had to be strong. I had to be the rock. I took Kenzo to a child therapist, a lovely woman named Dr. Evans, who let him draw pictures of his feelings. At first, he drew fire. He drew monsters with big teeth. But slowly, over the weeks, the fire in his drawings got smaller. The monsters got smaller. And he started drawing us, me and him, holding hands under a big, bright sun. When the trial finally began, the courtroom was freezing cold. Why are courtrooms always so cold? It feels like they pump the air straight from a refrigerator to keep everyone awake. Quasi sat at the defense table. He had lost weight. He looked gray.
He didn't look at me. He stared at his hands. The prosecution, led by a friend of Zunaira's, was ruthless. They laid it all out. They played the recording of the call from the park. The jury listened to Quasi ask about the money before he even asked about his son's body. I saw the jurors' faces harden. I saw a grandmother in the front row shake her head in disgust. Then came the accomplices, the 2 men who burned my house down. They didn't have any loyalty to Quasi. As soon as the police picked them up and threatened them with life in prison, they sang like canaries. "He gave us the key," the first man testified, pointing a shaky finger at Quasi. "He told us where the safe was. He told us to make sure the gas line in the kitchen was loosened."
The courtroom gasped. Loosening the gas line? That wasn't just a fire, that was a bomb. He wanted to blow us to pieces. Finally, it was my turn. I walked to the stand. My heels clicked on the wooden floor. I placed my hand on the Bible. I swore to tell the truth. I looked at Quasi. For the first time in months, he looked up. His eyes were pleading again, trying to manipulate me, trying to remind me of the good times. But I didn't see the man I married. I saw a stranger. "Mrs. Vance," the prosecutor asked, "can you tell the court why you didn't go home that night?" I took a deep breath. I looked at the jury.
Because my son, I said, my voice ringing clear in the silence, my 6-year-old son told me that his father wanted us dead. I told them about the whisper. I told them about hiding in the bushes. I told them about watching my life burn. When I finished, there wasn't a dry eye in that room. Even the bailiff looked like he was fighting back tears. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. They came back with a verdict that hit like a hammer. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, arson, insurance fraud, reckless endangerment of a minor. The judge, a stern woman with glasses perched on her nose, looked at Quasi over her bench. "Mr. Vance," she said, "in my 20 years on the bench, I have seen evil, but to sell your own child for a gambling debt, that is a special kind of darkness." She sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Quasi put his head on the table and sobbed. He cried loud, ugly sobs. But I knew, and the judge knew, he wasn't crying for us. He was crying for himself. He was crying for the life he threw away. I walked out of that courthouse and felt the sun on my face. It felt different. It felt cleaner. That was 3 years ago. Life looks very different now. We didn't rebuild the house on the old lot. I sold the land. I couldn't live there, not with the ghosts of the fire. We moved to a smaller town, a little further out in the country.
We have a small cottage with a big porch in a yard full of wildflowers. Kenzo is 9 now. He plays soccer, he loves math, he laughs loud and often. He doesn't talk about the fire much anymore, but sometimes when we're sitting on the porch watching the sunset, he'll lean into me and say, "We beat the bad guys, didn't we, Mom?" "Yes, baby," I tell him. "We beat them." I went back to school thanks to Zunera. I'm a paralegal now, working in her firm. My desk is right outside her office. Every day I meet women who come in with bruises on their arms and fear in their eyes. Women who are scared to leave. Women who don't know if they can survive on their own. I hold their hands. I look them in the eye and I tell them, "You are stronger than you think, and you are not alone. I am not just a survivor, honey. I am a lighthouse. I help guide others through the storm that almost drowned me." And as for Quasi, he sends letters sometimes from prison, begging for forgiveness, asking for pictures of Kenzo. I burn them. I don't open them. I don't read them. I take a match, I light the corner of the envelope, and I watch them turn to ash in the sink. It's a ritual, a reminder that fire can destroy, yes, but fire can also cleanse. That is where my story comes to an end. Thank you for spending this time with me, sitting here on my porch while I unburden my heart. If this story resonated with your soul, if it made you feel something, please like and subscribe to the channel.
Your support helps me tell these stories, helps us reach the people who might need to hear them the most. And remember, honey, listen to the whispers, listen to your children, and never, ever let anyone make you feel like you are worth less than a diamond, because you are precious. I wish you peace in your heart and safety in your home. Until we meet again.